Hello and welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. This is a podcast dedicated to accounting professionals who own and operate their own successful accounting business. It's in this podcast that we invite guests to come on and share with us the tips and tricks of what it is we need to know as business owners, as well as helping our clients. Now, it's in this podcast that I hope to share with you various things that range in topics from marketing, selling, to onboarding clients, client relations, and so much more. It's here that I'm hoping that you're getting the insights you need in order to grow your business, get paid what you're worth, and in fact, have the premier accounting firm in your area. I'm your host, Roger Knecht, and for more than 20 years, I've been working with accounting professionals to help them successfully start and build their accounting businesses. It's in this process that I'm finding friends, making new relationships, and most importantly, helping people realize their dreams, and I'm excited for that. Now, today we happen to have a guest on the show that I'm sure you're going to enjoy. It's definitely something that I find interesting. This happens to be Daniel B.L.U.E. Daniel is a regular contributor to Forbes.com and the owner of Quest Education. It's a company that helps entrepreneurs obtain capital for their companies, pay off high-interest debt, and use self-directed retirement accounts to invest in alternative assets. Now, with over more than 10 years of educating small business owners, Daniel has actually had created a knack for helping individuals get creative with their finances that led to life-changing results. Under Daniel's leadership, Quest for Education has actually reached a 7-figure mark 2 years in a row with thousands of customers throughout the United States. He also has a book, B.L.U.E. Print. It's B.L.U.E. Print, Your Best Retirement, and it's an Amazon bestseller. So Daniel, welcome to the show.
Roger, appreciate the lovely introduction, and it's an honor to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. So first of all, this rings true to my heart. We're all trying to plan for retirement, make some good investments, earn some income, but also at the same time, we're working with our clients as accounting professionals. We're aware of their financial situation. We're seeing what they're getting paid. We're perhaps involved with their taking dividends and so forth. So here we are working with our business owner clients. They want to retire, but the first thing that I see a lot of the clients do is they tend to want to reinvest it back in the business. They want to put it back into what they know, what they have control over. How do you, as a financial person, work with a CPA, an accounting person, a tax preparer to help them realize that their clients should be perhaps a little bit more diversified? How does that conversation go?
Yeah, I think it's really important for the owner, the client, to have a real conversation with themselves, right? The kind of conversation that you have in the mirror, and it's just you and you only. And ultimately, you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur because you want freedom, right? You want to have multiple streams of income, right? You want to be able to wake up and enjoy a day with your family. You want to go on vacation, and you want to do these things without having to, be involved with your day-to-day business, right? Like that's definitely the goal for most entrepreneurs, is to have that quote unquote passive income. So I'm always a firm believer of making sure your main thing is your main thing first. And, we were talking off air. I'm an entrepreneur with, about 13 employees. So I'm really focused. I'm 4 years in business. I'm really focused on making sure my main thing is my main thing, where I'm not the bottleneck. I have processes, I have systems, I'm breeding leaders. So then that way I can step away and I can work on some other things. Now, along the way, it is important, and this is what you were alluding to, that you do start to set some money aside, right? And whether it's stocks, whether it's real estate, whether it's some insurance policies, you definitely want to have some money go in different places along the way. And I think what it comes down to, what it really just boils down to, Roger, is just having discipline, right? You need to have that reserve, that cash reserve set aside. I think a lot of us learned the hard way during COVID, where we're like, holy cow, we needed to have more liquidity, right? Me personally, I had to buy out of a lease that was really expensive because I had a pretty big office space with all of my employees. I'm here in Las Vegas. Our state got shut down. I didn't have employees to go to the office for a long time. So I had to pivot. So I think there were some good things that came out of COVID. But going back to your question, it really just comes down to, the client situation, what their business looks like, how long have they been in business, what kind of processes, what kind of systems do they have in place? Are they the bottleneck? Can they scale? Obviously, that takes money to make that happen. But along the way, you definitely want to make sure that you're putting some money aside. And it could be, a Roth IRA. It doesn't have to be this massive chunk of money that you've got to set aside every month, every year. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah. Now, I have to admit, my best relationship for referral generation, literally where I get the majority of the clients that I currently am working with as I do CFO and advisory work, is actually from a financial planner. I guess this is a shout out for Carmen, but she's been amazing as we've worked together to help business owners really kind of run their businesses. And she's really benefited in the sense that I go in and help them become more profitable, actually free up a lot of their cash flow. And now all of a sudden they have monies that they literally can go back to Carmen and invest. And at that point, now plan for their future and diversify. So I'm curious, what else would you add that's advantageous for a financial planner to have as a relationship with their accounting colleague to help, basically synergistically help business owners?
Yeah, one thing I'm seeing more of, and I'm glad to see it, and I'm guessing a lot of your listeners are savvy. I like to kind of separate new school and old school, right? Like the old
Okay.
school way of setting up money decades ago was, mutual funds. I'll give an example. You go on Instagram, you go on social media, you go to a mastermind event, and a lot of CPAs are talking about different ways to, pay your kids, right? What is it, like $12,000 a year? You can pay your kid if your kid is a certain age and they do certain things, right? Like little tactics like that wasn't talked about, a while back, right? So I love seeing, these CPAs and these financial planners really think outside the box. I love that because we've got to have that kind of innovation, that kind of creative thinking to really get ahead. There's a reason why the wealthy get wealthier. So, with that being said, I'm seeing more of it. I wish I could see more of what I'm going to say next, but really the power of self-directed retirement accounts. And to kind of get deeper, what I'm talking about is there's a really good plan that can benefit entrepreneurs who don't have any W-2 employees, and it's called the solo 401k. And unfortunately, there's a lot of CPAs that aren't aware of this plan. They might be aware of a SEP IRA or a simple IRA, but a solo 401k, it offers a little bit more than a SEP IRA or a simple IRA. In the sense of it has the high contributions like a SEP IRA. You can contribute right around $62,000 a year, depending on the business's income. That can all be Roth contributions, right? A lot of the high income earners, they cannot contribute to a Roth IRA. So they're stuck doing, backdoor Roth conversions. If you have a solo 401k, there's no income restriction. You could be making $250,000 a year and still shove, up to 62,000 into a solo 401k as a Roth contribution. Of course, you can do the tax deferral contribution too, but the solo 401k also allows you to hold alternative assets in the plan. A lot of our customers are using the solo 401k to flip a property, to invest into private lending, private equity, crypto, precious metals. So investments outside the stock market, outside of that traditional mutual fund model. And then what I really love about the solo 401k is it has the loan feature. Unlike the SEP IRA, it has a loan feature, the solo 401k, and that can come in clutch. There's a story that comes to my mind. We had a gal that wanted to start an online business, and she needed about $20,000 to buy product for her store. And she didn't want to borrow money from the bank. Instead, she liked the idea of using her retirement account to fund her business. And she was hesitant to go down that path because with her IRA, she would have had to pay penalties and taxes if she just withdrew the $20,000 out. So we helped her take her IRA, converted it into a solo 401k. And then from there, she took out $20,000 penalty and tax free, used that money to fund her business, bought her inventory. And then it is a loan, right? So it's a 5-year term. So she had 5 years to pay her solo 401k back. And then the IRS does require that there's interest on the loan. Right now, it's about 1 to 2 points plus prime. So right now, you're looking at anywhere from 5.75% to 6.75% on this loan. but the interest goes back to the solo 401k. So essentially, this client was able to be her own bank and fund a business using her retirement account. So some different things that you can do with something like a solo 401k.
I'm glad you brought this up because what you're speaking to not only would interest the listeners as they're running their own companies, but many of the clients that they're looking at, they are looking at how do I acquire some funds, get some capital to maybe expand the business, grow the business. And what you just talked about is becoming your own bank, accessing some of the wealth that you have that you can then repurpose within the business and grow the company. I mean, is that a fair summary of what you just said?
Yeah. And, one thing I want to be very transparent about, I'm not a financial advisor. Our company doesn't sell stocks, investments, or anything like that. And that's one thing I really love is we just come from a pure standpoint of education, just pure public information. What I just explained is all Googleable information, if that's even a word. But basically, it's just pulling the curtain back and helping people understand that these strategies are there. They've existed for decades. It's just not talked about. Financial advisors, certainly most of them, don't want to talk about this, or they just don't know. They weren't trained because this model doesn't make Wall Street money, right? Wall Street makes money based off of assets under management. Usually stocks, equities, things like that, right? Mutual funds. If people are accessing their retirement accounts penalty and tax free, and they're using it to fund their business or invest into a multifamily deal in South Carolina, that doesn't make them money. So that's why what I'm covering isn't something that most people hear about, but it is IRS approved. And it's not the one all be all solution. What I'm saying is not the one and only thing that works, right? It's a tool in the tool belt, right? I'm a big proponent of having as many options as I possibly can. When I started my company 4 years ago, I had to use a lot of 0% credit cards, right? I think a 0% credit card is a tool. It's leverage. An insurance product, infinite banking, it's a tool, right? Real estate, a tool. Stocks, it's a tool, right? It's a channel that you can tap into. And that's what the solo 401k is as well.
Yeah, what I hear us discussing here is really for small business owners, a different element of the cash flow management. Cash flow at its very simplistic form happens to be you've got customers that owe you money, they're on the receivables end. You've got payables that you've got to make, and that includes maybe payroll and so forth. And cash flow is just basically that bubble in the middle of how long you get to hold on to the money before it has to go back out through payables. So as it's coming in and going out, how long can we hold on to it? Well, sometimes that gets choked to the point that there is no money. I have a lot of people that owe me, but I've got a lot of payables that I need to pay, and I have nothing in between to pay it with. So you start to leverage then various lines of credit, credit cards. You've got these different avenues that you can go down as to which one is better than another as to how can I access monies. Well, obviously, if you can lend to yourself and you can tap into some of these resources like you've described, that might be at a lesser interest rate than maybe going out and getting some of these other funds that are available, but they have a little bit more teeth in them. And so here you are as a business owner running your business with the cash that you need, and it's from resources that, like you're pointing out, may not be obvious or oftentimes pointed out. And as accounting professionals, it's kind of nice to be able to mention these or reference them and have these in our toolbox of things that we can point out. So here's a question. You've talked about being your own bank. We're talking about how a financial advisor and a wealth manager may be able to work with an accounting professional. Let's talk about how to make tax-free money. I mean, everybody's working so hard to earn and make this money. How can we keep it and hold it tax-free?
Yeah, so the tax-free element really is the Roth component, right? And that's something that most people are familiar with, the Roth IRA. And the Roth IRA is great and all, right? The problem is it's really limited. You can only contribute $6,000 to $7,000 a year into that bad boy. And then if you want to get really creative, you got to do the backdoor Roth conversion. So that's why I love the solo 401k, because let's kind of do some math together. If your business was making enough money where you can contribute $50,000 into a Roth solo 401k 1 year, and that $50,000 were to grow to $100,000 over a period of time, that is now 100% tax-free money, right? And now you've got $100,000 maybe you want to deploy somewhere else, and then it grows to 200,000, right? 100% tax-free money. And if that 50,000 grew to 500,000 over a period of time, again, 100% tax-free money. You had to pay taxes on the 50,000 that you put in, right? You did have to claim that as income. So look at that as the seed. You're paying taxes on the seed one time. But that 50,000, if it grew to 500,000, the 500,000 is the harvest. The harvest, you don't have to pay any taxes, right? So you're paying taxes on the seed, but not the harvest. And a lot of people love that with the solo 401k because, again, it's 100% tax free, but then also they get to use the money in different ways, like investing outside the stock market. Pretty sure Peter Thiel is Mitt Romney, people that you guys can Google. And Peter Thiel, I think, was famous for having like billions with a B in a Roth account. And I'm pretty sure it was self-directed, right? It's really hard to be like Mitt Romney or Peter Thiel and have millions and millions and millions of dollars in like something like a Roth IRA or a self-directed plan. I think Mitt Romney had a self-directed IRA, like a SEP, I believe. It's hard to do those kinds of things if you're just investing in just the stock market. And again, people can create wealth in the stock market all day long. I'm not here to crap on Wall Street or the stock market, but these guys were investing in the private equity, right? And those types of investments typically, they're not available when you have a traditional IRA with Fidelity or Vanguard. You do have to have the money held by a company that is a self-directed custodian that could administer those types of assets.
Your explanation of the Roth, I think, is very helpful because working with people that near retirement, there's something that I've noticed. When you have to take out money, just to give you a simple example, I knew that one was wanting to go purchase a vehicle. So you've got a $50,000 vehicle that they want to go buy. In the case of a Roth, they could take the money out of a Roth and pay the $50,000 and be done with it. The problem is if it's actually in another type of fund where the taxes are paid when you withdraw the funds. Yes, you put in the money tax-free, but now when you're taking it out, you owe taxes. So you take out not $50,000 to buy the $50,000 vehicle. You have to take out, say, $70,000 to buy the $50,000 vehicle because you owe the $20,000 in taxes. Well, I'm just using numbers, by the way. But the point is the individual becomes discouraged because the vehicle no longer is costing them $50,000. The vehicle is costing them, let's say, $70,000, and they start to second guess a lot of the purchases and some of the things that they could be doing in retirement. Because rather than investing it at the front end, like you're describing, and paying taxes on the seed, they're investing it with the intent that at the end they're going to pay taxes, and it just becomes a lot more, I think, discouraging and cost prohibitive to do what they want to do when they then have to pay the taxes associated with withdrawing the funds. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, when we break it down to its fundamental core, IRAs, 401ks, they all function the same way in the sense there's two types of tax treatment that you can get when you put money into these plans, right? And remember, we can have a Roth IRA, we can have a Roth 401k, we can have a Roth solo 401k, we can have a pre-tax IRA, a pre-tax solo 401k, right? It's still the same thing. Traditional IRA is obviously pre-tax. I think it really only makes sense to put money in a pre-tax, like a traditional IRA or a tax-deferred 401k, if you really, really need the write-offs, right? And I'm not a CPA, right? So there's people listening to this right now that have probably told somebody, hey, Bob, you need to find another write-off because if you don't, like, you're going to be screwed this year in taxes, right? So like when you have those kinds of conversations, then it makes sense where, okay, let's look at putting, $15,000 in a solo 401k tax-deferred contribution, right? Because that's going to massively help that person with their taxable situation that year, right? So beyond a circumstance like that, I think most people, again, everyone's situation is different case by case, but they're probably going to be better off putting money into a Roth IRA or a Roth solo 401k or a Roth 401k with their job, just because the tax-free status. But then you can take with like a Roth IRA, you can withdraw contributions from a Roth IRA anytime, penalty and tax-free. As long as the account has been open for 5 years, there is that caveat. So you are going to have to pay taxes and penalties on tax deferred money Roths just give you a little bit more creativity in terms of, or flexibility rather.
Yeah. Well, I think what the takeaway for me is when you're looking at the business owner and considering all the different venues that they can take the funds that they're earning as they've worked so hard, we as accounting professionals just need to be able to in at least involve ourselves, participate in different strategies that they may be taking on with their financial planners and wealth advisors as to how to defer taxes today. What is it that we could be looking at as to a strategy to help them today, but also be mindful of what that might look like then in the end when they're now retired and wanting access to the funds that they set aside. So it's a healthy conversation because if I can be involved with my client and be as a team collaborating on best practices and a strategy that they can implement, I think at the end of the day, they feel as if they're getting great sound advice from multiple people that have their best interests at heart. And that's where it matters most. So this is a healthy conversation, and I'm hoping that the listeners are realizing that they could build great relationships, not just with their clients, but also these financial planners, wealth advisors, business attorneys, just kind of having a team of individuals that are working in the best interests of the business owner. Here's a question that I would like to know what you think about is when you're trying to actually fund without the banks, what are some of the sources that we could maybe list that would be helpful for these people?
Yeah, so let's go back to the customer I was talking about, where she needed 20,000 to start her online business to buy some inventory for her store, right? She was able to get her hands on $20,000 without a credit check, without income verification, without having to submit tax returns, right? That's why most people, especially startups, are having to use credit cards in the very beginning, right, to fund their business because they don't have tax returns, from the business. They don't have a proven track record of income coming in, right? They're a new business. There's going to be credit checks, when you're dealing with the banks. So, using the loan feature on a solo 401k, it's a very straightforward process to remove the banks and, again, be your own bank and really come to the conclusion of, obviously there's risk. No matter what you invest your money in, there's going to be some kind of risk, right? So a good way of kind of looking at things is, maybe you've got a portfolio or your clients have a portfolio and, they like the idea of taking the IRA or 401k, especially, maybe right now with the stock market going crazy, maybe saying, you know what, let me take a sliver of this money. And instead of it being in the stock market where I really don't have much control over it, let me put it in my hands. Let me invest in myself. Let me invest in my business. I feel better about making that play. I know I could lose money with my business, just like I could lose money in my stocks, right? And, taking that kind of approach. But then again, being able to get your hands on this money without a credit check, without income verification, without having to submit tax returns to the banks and things like that.
I'm liking this conversation because I've seen business owners go through this. One, I've seen business owners who, in a state of panic, don't know where to access funds when they're definitely needing them, and coming in after the fact and realizing that they just were very unclear as to what their options were. And you're definitely sharing some solutions here. The second is I've been in situations where, in a state of panic, the business owner is coming and they're needing cash, as one was they needed to make payroll. So in those situations, it's kind of nice to be able to at least offer options and give them things that they may not be considering just as solutions. Now, obviously, both you and I would agree it's not our place to give this type of financial advice just blanketly. It's definitely something that somebody needs to really kind of think through. But what I like about this conversation is the fact that there are options and that we can, with financial planners, basically kind of think outside the box and give solutions or options to the clients that we're working with. Here's something that I'd like to also ask. Many of the small businesses I work with, they struggle to have benefits plans, and they struggle to have various things that entice people to stay in the company, various things that they can offer to entice individuals to come on board and join the business. With the unemployment rate as it is, it's just such a tight market. And then with small businesses, oftentimes the business owner doesn't have some of these things for themselves and their own family. So I'm just curious, You were listing off a number of things earlier and kind of mentioning what could they take advantage of. And I just wanted to get a list of any others that you may want to mention that a small business owner could entertain to either take care of themselves as they're running their own small company, or maybe add to the suite of benefits that they're providing to their clients to keep them around. What would you mention?
Yeah, I look at, people listening to this show are probably in a similar spot that I am, in the sense of, right, your customer goes through you for a service, right? Maybe you do their tax prep, help them with their entity structure, things of that nature, right? You're a CPA. We help people with self-directed plans, right? We set up their solo 401ks. We help them with the customer service. We're not CPAs, right? We don't give tax advice, but we talked about this earlier, which I love your mindset and mentality on this. Is they need to have a team, right? Somebody should have a team on their sideline, right? The tax attorney, the real estate attorney if they've got real estate deals, the CPA, the company that helps them with self-directed plans, right? The banker, right? Just having different tools in their tool belt, right? And we could be a tool for those people, right? People that, especially these days, right? More and more people are getting more and more advanced, right? They're going down the rabbit hole of YouTube. They're following certain people on social media and learning about, oh crap, I didn't know I could do this with my retirement accounts. How come my financial advisor never told me? Or how come I was never taught this in school? So for people in your network that like the idea of accessing their retirement account penalty and tax free, and using those funds to do something outside of the stock market, we could be that piece in the puzzle. And we do have an affiliate program, and all that kind of fun stuff. So it's a win-win-win for everyone: win for the client, win for the tax firm, and win for us. Obviously, I'm not a nonprofit. But it just goes down to, and I'll share this with you guys here, the listeners. That's how I've been able to really build my business over the years, is by building out a strong referral network. Being able to run ads is tough in the financial space, right? We think about CPAs and accounting and the financial space. One, it's hard to get people's attention, right? We don't have the sexiest of services that we sell. And then two, running a Facebook ad, running an Instagram ad, it's easy to get shut down because, you said something you shouldn't have said, right? You use a certain word that you get flagged, right? So, being able to create mutually beneficial relationships on the affiliate side, and scratching other companies' backs, and having reciprocal relationships has been huge for us over the years.
Gotcha. Now, let's talk about the conversation that a financial planner and an accountant would have as to why they should synergistically work with a business owner. What would they say together as they're trying to figure out, is there any synergy? And then secondly, what would they say together when meeting with a business owner? Would you have any insights on either of those two conversations?
I think it's really important to come in, and there's a reason why we have 2 ears and one mouth. And I think we're really getting away from the old school model, right? The financial advisor that works for Edward Jones, and all they do is sell Edward Jones products, and those products are the only products on the table. And hopefully I'm not ruffling too many feathers here. If you are at Edward Jones, it's a great company, but I've just seen a lot of financial plans that are just so cookie cutter, right? Like they're just getting sold. The client's just getting sold a Class A mutual fund with a huge front load commission, and nothing else is being, talked about on the table, right? So you really have to lead with solving a problem. What is their problem? What is their biggest problem? Let's tackle that first. How can we solve problems today, but then also plan for the future? Right. And, their problem today could be, they need some funding for a business, and maybe you can't help them with that today, but you can facilitate an affiliate relationship with another company to help your client solve that problem today. But you're their solution for their problem 10 years from now, 20 years from now. And their problem is they're going to outlive their own money, right? We are becoming healthier as a society. I think it's easy to take the stance of we're probably going to be living until we're 70, 80, 90 years old. I don't think we could have taken that stance 40 years ago, right? So again, you might have a solution for them, but that solution might not align with the time frame with their current, needs today. And that's why I think it's really important to come in with an open mind and listen and really understand where they're coming from, and be like their quarterback, right? Like whatever play call is going to be the best one to run, you might need to hand the ball off to somebody else to get that touchdown. You're still a part of that touchdown. You're still a part of that win. It's just you weren't the running back in that play, but you could still be the running back in the next play, right? So just having that team effort is key.
Yeah. I'm going to add to what you just shared and kind of go back to what I said at the beginning, that my biggest referral source for the client base that I currently work with happens to be a financial planner. And when I work with her, one of the things that I think is so helpful is as we speak to the clients, I'm going at it from the standpoint of making money. So what can I do to help them make money? And what I'm helping them realize is that they need to also benefit from that. They need to materialistically take some funds from the money or from the company as dividends and enjoy some of the joys of the success of their business. And so as I'm doing that, I'm also then counseling them that they shouldn't just spend it all. They need to actually do something with it. And so if I could then send them over to that financial planner that I'm working with, they in turn are able to make sure that they're maxing or fully funding the various accounts that they can to maximize their tax opportunities. And so there's this synergistic relationship that we've got going on where we know that the client has plans for education of their children, where we're going to fully fund the education account. We know that they have interest in an HSA, so we're going to fully fund the HSA. We know that they have interest in, let's say, 401k. So we're going to fully fund that. All we're doing is we're just trying to find ways that synergistically we can make money and keep the money, and most importantly, have it work for us for down the line as well. So there is a good synergy that I feel that I've been able to build with this person, and the two of us work well, and we take care of some great clients just because of it. And she's more than happy to send me more people as she runs into business owners. So I can't complain with that. I want to go into your running a business. You mentioned you've got a business, you've been in business as a business owner. These accounting professionals like you are a business owner. What are some of the things that you have faced as a business owner in your growth to the 10 plus employees that you have that would be some learnings that we could pass on to them? What have you experienced as you've grown your company? You talked about procedures and processes. Talk about maybe culture and so forth.
Yeah. So what I'm going to speak on is something that I think will resonate with your listeners the most, because it was something that I struggle with for a couple of different reasons. But I really wish I would have focused on personal branding earlier in the game. I wish I would have jumped into social media earlier in the game. And there's two reasons why I didn't. Number one, I wouldn't be on social media if I didn't own a business. I'm just going to be very, very direct. If I did not own a company, I wouldn't be on social media. But social media is the now, it's the future, right? It's how people do business. It's how people communicate. It's how people can know, like, and trust you. And if you're not on social media, you're missing out on business. And that's the reason why I'm on social media, because it's been a great tool for me to, number one, attract customers for my team. And then number two, be able to meet and build more rapport with referral partners, because your referral partners, your affiliates, people you want to get in front of, they're probably on social media, and they probably don't live in your city. They probably don't golf where you golf. They probably don't go to the gym where you work out. So how else are you going to be able to talk to these people, right? That's where social media comes into play. So social media has been something where I wish I would have gotten involved with it much earlier. It's been super, super helpful over the years in terms of leading to business, leading to leads. And like I said earlier, leading to affiliate relationships. And I also didn't go on social media because I really didn't know what I would say. I'm like, man, I'm in the financial space. Like, that stuff is so boring. Well, I'll leave this with the audience. Think about social media like the radio, like the TV, right? It's marketing, right? It is just a different channel, right? Instead of it being ABC, it's NBC, but it's all the same thing: radio, social media, the television, the 80-20 rule, right? 80% of the content that we consume, whether it's the radio or a podcast or the television or social media, it's content. The other 20% is ads, right? So I treat social media the same way. 80% of my content, if you go to my Instagram, if you go on my Facebook, you're going to see my content is content that is there to serve. It's not for me. It's for my ideal clients, my audience. And that content is there to either educate people, entertain people, or share a story. And it's not business related. It's not, hey, check out this solo 401k, or hey, hop on the phone with my team at Quest Education. It's none of that. It's there to entertain, educate. That's why people go on social media, mostly to be entertained. And then the other 20% of what I post on social media, it is business related. But again, it's not buy my stuff, right? Like that gets old. You go on social media and you have a realtor friend, every post that they make is, hey, check out this listing, check out this house. You're not engaging with that post. You're just like, oh my gosh, another listing. Like all this person does is just post about the house that they're listing. That gets old. That doesn't get people's attention, right? So the 20% that's business related, share a success story, share a tip, 5 things to avoid, right? Like just share some value on the 20% side. And tying into social media, like I mentioned earlier, personal branding. I wish I would have wrote a book earlier in the game. I wish I would have started a podcast earlier. I wish I would have jumped on podcasts. I've been on over 100 episodes on podcasts. I wish I would have done that sooner. I wish I would have spoken at events sooner, right? Like all of that, to me, I put in the same bucket: social media, speaking, podcasts, writing a book. That's personal branding. In 2022, people are doing business with people that they know, like, and trust. I'm not saying everyone does business that way, but the majority of people you want to do business with, they want to get to know you first. They want to trust you. And that takes a little bit of time, right? And that's where social media can come in and help out.
I'm glad that you shared all that, because one of the things that I can relate to is LinkedIn. On the social media spectrum, LinkedIn has become a very integral part of my business in the last year. And I'm always impressed to see in the connections that I make who also is a connection that's related, meaning it'll actually show you these are the people that you have in common. And I like that. That's actually something that's been helpful in the conversations that I've had as to how they know and who they know. So that's good. I can relate to that. In growing your business and your multiple 7 figures, have you worked with a mentor or coach before in that process? And if so, what did you learn from them?
So I've been very transparent on this podcast, and that won't change. I drive a Honda Accord. My wife drives a Honda Civic, and our third car is a Mazda 3 from 2007. And I don't want to get rid of it because my daughter's 13, and that'll be her car in a few years. So I'm not a car guy, number one. And again, I'm not here to crap on people that drive nice cars. I'm just not a car guy. If I was, I probably would be more inclined to drive nicer cars. But what I spend on masterminds every year, I could buy a nice car once a year. I just choose to invest tens of thousands of dollars a year into coaching, into masterminds. That's been a game changer for me because I'm 33 years old. I wasn't born with money. I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs. I have just really been winging it over the years and making a ton of mistakes and just learning from them. But once I started investing into masterminds, I was able to get to a point where I could be around people that, number one, if you're an entrepreneur and you're listening to this, you already know you're a freak, right? You already know that you're the odd one in your family, right? You go to Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas, you're probably one of the only entrepreneurs in the room. Most people are talking about, Joe Biden and Donald Trump and, Fox News and CNN. Like they're just talking about things that don't serve them, right? They're gossiping. And you're over here thinking about the next service that you're going to offer, or, the next funnel that's going to be, generating you leads, right? Like we're just cut from a different cloth. And being an entrepreneur, you have to surround yourself with other entrepreneurs to really get some good ideas going, some good synergy going. Because if you can have a group of people around you, especially if they're doing better than you, I want to be in a room where my company is the smallest company. We're doing, a lower revenue compared to other people in the room. I know I'm in the right room if I'm in a place like that. And I've gotten a lot of great ideas and advice from other entrepreneurs who are doing things way better than me when it comes to operations and marketing and, scaling and things like that. So there's a reason why Tiger Woods has a coach. There's a reason why Michael Jordan had a coach. The greatest of the greats all have coaches for a reason. So, being able to invest in yourself, I think is the best investment out there.
I love that you brought up masterminds. Definitely coaching, but masterminds, that's an old, tried and proven element of, I think, success. Just for curiosity, define for our listeners a mastermind. How many are in your group? How often do you meet? How long do you meet for? How long have you been a part of a specific mastermind group? Because usually they stay together as a group for a very long period of time.
For sure. I'm in 3 right now. So I'll give a couple different comparisons. The one that I've been in the longest, it's the most expensive one. It's my favorite one. And I've been in it for this long for a reason now, about 3-4 years.
Okay.
We meet 10 times a month. And it's in Dallas, Texas. There's over 100 of us. And we all fly into Dallas once a month. And there's usually a theme. The theme could be email marketing. It could be culture. It could be building a brand, right? So there's usually a theme around it. There's usually a guest speaker that is an expert in said theme that will give a presentation. And then the leader of the mastermind will spend some time, sharing what's, working for them. This particular mastermind is called Apex. The founder, the leader of the group is Ryan Stewman. It's been a great group to me over the years. So that's one that's more engaged than a lot of other masterminds. Most masterminds that I've seen, and there's certainly ones like Apex that are that nitty gritty, that meet that often. But most masterminds work the way that the other two that I'm a part of work, where you meet once a year or maybe 4 times a year, 3 times a year. There's some Zoom calls. I would say that the best part about a mastermind is the network. Like, who is in the network? There's some great masterminds, I'm sure that cater to real estate investors and CPA firms, right? I joined specific masterminds because, I was talking earlier about personal branding. Like, I wanted to get better at personal branding. That's why I joined a mastermind like Apex. I wanted to get better at content and video and writing copy and building a brand, right? So I think it's important that you pick a mastermind that aligns with your goal, and find people that you've got some good energy with, some good vibes.
I appreciate those various descriptions. You've got groups that you're traveling to be with, that you meet with frequently, others that you meet with infrequently. The most common that I've experienced happen to be meeting once or twice a month, typically once a month. It's normally been like a half-day event. We'll typically do a breakfast or a lunch with the group. Having an extra or a special guest speaker that comes in, teaches a concept that month. And then we basically ask ourselves the question, therefore what? And in the group, we go around and talk. And it's really applying the principle that I'm sure many are familiar with, which is you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most of your time with. And so if you're surrounding yourselves with people that are naysayers, negative, it really can weigh on you. But if you're working with people like you were describing, successful entrepreneurs, business-minded people that you're interacting with, they'll come with insights, experience, perspectives that will actually complement your business goals, and you'll be able to actually grow and thrive. So I think masterminds are really, really impactful and helpful. So I appreciate you bringing them up. Here's the last thing that I'd like to just share. You've got your daughter. You mentioned she's at this point 13. What do you hope she's learning from you as she watches you run your business, grow your business? What do you hope she's taking from that?
It's funny you asked that question because I literally just posted this on Facebook the other day. So next week, I'm running 38 miles, and I'm not a runner. So this is something that I've only been training for the last 6 weeks. And 6 weeks ago, I ran 2 miles, and I thought I was going to die. And I thought, what am I doing? How am I going to run 38 miles? But training has gone really good, and I feel very confident going into next week. And my daughter asked me the other day, she's like, Dad, why are you running 38 miles? And I said, Bella, I said, if I die tomorrow, I want you to remember one thing. I said, do the hard stuff. Don't run from the hard stuff. Anything that is worthwhile in your life is going to come with pain. It's going to come with some heartache. It's going to come from doing something very hard. And it's going to be worth it on the other side of that hard work, on the other side of that pain. And running this far, training like this is teaching me how to operate and thrive during times of hard. It's easy to do things when it's easy, when when you're complacent, right? When you're not being challenged. But when you're under stress, when you're thinking about quitting, when you have doubt and you keep moving forward and you win and you see progress, it's really hard to stop somebody like that. It's really hard not to be a winner. So, I went on this kind of Tony Robbins spiel with her, and she says, all right, Dad. And that was it. And she's 13. I think she had an AirPod in her ear. I swear every teenager has one AirPod in their ear all the time. So I don't know how much she actually listened to me. I know she'd listened to me in some way or shape or form. But remember, they don't just listen to you, right? They actually see what you do, right? Monkeys see, monkey do. And our actions speak way more than our words. So I'll leave it with that. If you've got a kid, you know exactly what I mean.
No, I do, and I completely agree. We can say so many very inspirational and very appropriate things until we're blue in the face. At the end of the day, the actions are what they see and notice. Now, they will pick up on things throughout, but she's watching and she's learning, and I'm glad you're doing the difficult things, because that is where the memories are made. And honestly, that's where those experiences that you need to have happen. So that's amazing. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up our conversation here today. And in my wrap up, one of the things that I would like to do is just do a summary of our conversation and then come back to you, Daniel, for a closing thought. So before I get into my summary, let me just mention that Daniel has been kind enough to actually give us access to your getting a free copy of his book, The Blueprint to Your Best Retirement. This is that Amazon bestseller that we mentioned. I'm going to put in the episode description a link for you to be able to get a copy of this book, and I would encourage you to take a look at it. Not only for yourself, but also with the idea of what it is you can do to take these concepts and principles and share them with your clients, and more importantly, help them. Because as accounting professionals, we're dealing with the one trusted asset that is so valuable. It's the money, the actual tool that determines for so many people their success is how much money they're getting. Well, hopefully what we can do is get a portion of it into their hands as the business owner, and then more importantly, do things that can basically help them keep that money, whether it be avoiding taxes or investing it and so forth. So being part of that team of wealth advisors and financial planners can actually help us become that much more valued asset to our clients. And so check out what it is that you can actually do by reading the book Blueprint to Your Best Retirement. In the same vein, I also invite you to check out the book Red to Black. It's an accountant's how-to guide to help business owners actually come out of a cash flow situation where they're in the red and be in the black, and at the same time use these principles as an accounting professional to help your clients stay in the black by applying the principles that they learned there. Now, in these two books, I'm sure you'll get a great addition to your library, so go check those out. Now, as a summary, one of the things that I just want to kind of put a highlight on is the fact that we began the conversation by just talking about different tools that we can use to invest, and in doing so, consider ways that we can defer taxes, and at the same time, as Daniel pointed out, maybe pay taxes on the seed and not so much on the harvest of what it is that we're able to invest in. And I like that analogy. I thought that was very, very helpful. The other thing that was very insightful to me is I think this whole idea of working in the business. We've got this whole mastermind idea of what it is we can be doing with those great resources of other business owners that are in our area that we can kind of collaborate with and learn from their experiences, their mistakes perhaps, and try and avoid those in our own business. Lastly, what I would like to just point out is it just kind of reminded me of how valuable the relationship is that I have with my strongest referral partner, which happens to be a financial planner who, as she works with business owners, sees the value in the accounting and how it can actually be helpful, and the business coaching and advisory work that I do with them to really free up some assets and bring them back around to her to help them plan for their retirement. So definitely a lot of little ahas and tidbits that I've taken from this conversation, some which are reminders and others are to-dos. So I hope you found the same to be true as you've taken note of what we've been speaking on today. So Daniel, what would be your closing thought as we're wrapping this up?
Man, I would just challenge, and this is a challenge to me as well, because I own a service-based business. I know you were saying a lot of the people listening to the podcast own service-based businesses. I would just challenge being uncomfortable, right? I'm not getting on camera, doing a podcast, speaking on stage. Again, that's personal branding. Social media, personal branding is building your machine. And that stuff isn't stuff that I love to do, but I love to win. And I recognize that I'm going to increase my chances at winning by doing those types of things that I might not really enjoy or I might not want to do. Right. So, really dial in what is important to you. How bad do you want to win? If you can win without doing those things, kudos. I got a lot of respect for people like that, because you don't need to have social media to win. One of my good friends owns a high 8-figure business, and he has like 325 followers on Instagram, right? So you don't need to have social media to win, but I do think it's a helpful tool. So start making sure that you're showing up and building your brand.
Very good. Very good. Well, I appreciate that. One of the things that's been helpful is just hearing your perspective on things, and most importantly, just getting some of the ideas that you've mentioned. So thank you for being on the show. I appreciated these insights. I do want to invite everyone, if you've not already subscribed to the podcast, to definitely do so. In subscribing, you'll actually get notifications as well as to each of the episodes that we release on a weekly basis, speaking with the experts and getting insights as to how it is we can be running our business more effectively and profitably. It's also there that I encourage you to listen to the past episodes. Definitely go back and look at some of the past episodes that we've done on a variety of topics, and be sure to like and highlight those. Give us a good review on them, and we'd always appreciate knowing what you thought of the episodes when you're actually reviewing them. The last thing I'd like to just mention is, if you have interest in these principles or would like to learn more about what it is you can be doing to work on your business to have the premier accounting firm in your area, feel free to reach out to us at universalaccounting.com, or you can call us at 801-265-3777. And always remember this: if it's about accounting, it is universal. Do take care, have a great day, and be safe out there.